Like all the stakeholders of this community that we host every single day, the team that puts the show together, the Startup Central team, thrives on constructive criticism. So keep writing into us to tell us how to take the show to the next level. We lap up on praises, but we really look for feedback and constructive criticism. Nikhil Kamath of Zerodha put out a very pertinent tweet today where he asked this question: is there a winter coming for the creator economy? We've all been talking about how the creator economy is flourishing, how those who make it, it's not a side hustle for them or a second gig, it's their main job, their main hustle. But with startups that were fueling a lot of the creator economy, startups that are now looking at their bottom line, road to profitability, being instructed by investors to increase cash runway and just not spend as much, what will happen to content creators? Another source of funding, and a big source of funding, was coming in from the crypto world. But with the crypto world going through such a big bear run, what again will happen to the content creators? So Nikhil Kamath asked his pertinent question on Twitter, and we took a leaf from that and said, let's have a discussion on it. So let me introduce you to the panel that we have here today. It's a good one where we try to cover all angles. So we've got two content creators. So one of them is Neha Nagar. You would have seen her well. She has more than 1 million followers already on Instagram. She loves to, demystify and simplify personal finance and the world of finance. We're also being joined by Reecha, an artist and influencer, popular on Moj, the short video format. And we're also being joined by Vikas Nowal, the founder and CEO at Interspace Communications, which is incidentally, backed by Noel Tata. Noel Tata is a majority shareholder of this agency, which helps content creators, is in digital marketing and advertising, and helps a lot of the deals being struck. So welcome to Startup Central, all of you. Neha, I'll begin with you. The Kamath brothers of Zerodha are really looked up to simply because of what they've done with Zerodha, with TrueBeacon. They take very often to social media to create awareness as well. So today you have Nikhil Kamath saying, is there a winter coming for content creators? Let me ask you this question. Is it a question you ask yourself multiple times a day? Is it keeping you up at night? Is there a winter coming?
Definitely it's coming. If it's coming for stocks, NFT, crypto, or any other investment, then I am a finance influencer that it will affect me directly or indirectly. Earlier, I used to get 4 to 5 paid promotions on Instagram per month. And from past 3 months, I'm getting just half, like 2 to 3 maximum. I'm getting 3 paid promotions. And not just about the paid promotions, but the guidelines from government regarding crypto, buy now, pay later schemes, or any other fintech or edtech startups. So these has led to the startups cutting down on their expenses, and this has directly affected us. And yes, it's not a matter of worry for me or any other content creator, because before 2020 we were not getting that much amount from paid promotions, so we did not started it for paid promotions. When we started and 2021 bull run came, then we got to know that okay, we can earn this much also. So that was a surprise to all of us also. But that is not the only reason that why we are creating content. We have multiple sources of income apart from the content, and even from the content we can generate multiple sources of income. Like many content creators are now planning to launch their courses on personal finance or investing in coming September, October, or this year only. Apart from that, we have already started sending premium newsletters, and we have already started shifting from one platform to other. Like earlier I was only focusing on Instagram more, but now I'm focusing more on YouTube also, because that will also be an add up to my income sources.
Yes, a lot of people now are talking about the fact that YouTube is easier to monetize, simply just given the scale that it has. So Neha has been so candid enough to tell us that she's having to experiment, going beyond one platform as well, that promotions are down, if they were like 5 to 2 to 3. Reecha, you're very popular on the short video format platform Moj. What are you facing? Is there a fatigue? Are people tired of influencers? Everybody wants to be an influencer. Anybody who's good looking, has some good clothes, wants to be an influencer, it suddenly seems like. Is there a winter?
What I would say is when I started during the lockdown, especially when I had nothing to do, I actually started this influencer thing in the lockdown time, and suddenly I was like, everybody was crying out of COVID issues, and we people like we found a new way to earn during the lockdown. Before lockdown, I had no Instagram, I had no followers, nothing. So this lockdown gave me this opportunity to build my profile, and then suddenly it boosted. Suddenly we started getting paid promotions, a lot of money, and then there were so many influencers on board, there were so many people coming on Instagram. Suddenly our rates started dropping because there were many people who were ready to do the same thing in smaller amounts. So yes, and then there's this point when you start thinking, now what next, because you have already created so much of content, and of course monotony hits you. You can't keep creating same thing again and again, and then every time there's a competition who comes up with a better style, better innovation, creativity, it becomes so difficult. But yes, you always have to find a new way out of it. Like, we have got short platforms. I am on Moj, I've got a regular income from Moj. I'm creating a lot of, I'm traveling, I'm doing certain things which I never used to do before lockdown. It has given us but there's always a graph. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up. If it's going down, it has to come up. So this is the way how things work. Yes, it's like a sinusoidal wave. It is going down, but I'm sure people will start coming up with different things, and then there'll be again a boom with new opportunities.
Okay, you're going to wait for the upcycle. I'll just come back to you, Richa, but I want to go to Vikas now. I told you all, agency majority shareholder is Noel Tata. What I want to ask you, Vikas, is okay, we've seen this boom of creator economy, and which is flourishing on the back of all the dollars that came in for the startups and what we were seeing in the crypto world. With that out of the equation now, you're talking about startups saying that they're not going to back IPL, which is the world's largest sporting property. I think it is safe to assume that their spends for content creators is also going to come down considerably. If it's coming down for IPL, obviously it'll come down here. It's an educated guess. But having said that, what I want to understand is that where do brands stand in this? They were looking at influencers, they were looking at content creators to have return on investments. Has that happened? Has brands' bets on influencers paid off before the winter season?
So I'll answer it in three different parts. One is if you were to look at the entire business, let's understand. Thanks to pandemic, there was a dramatic upsurge in terms of the social media acceptance, in terms of the communication, overflow of communication, rather I would say, and third is the influencer part of it. Now, every time there is something new which is coming up, what happens is it goes through evolution phase. Okay, there was an early acceptance, unprecedented acceptance, and all of us we were hoping that the swing would continue with the same, so to say, momentum. But somewhere, like I said, that in an evolution, there comes a time when initially you were growing at a 60% rate, 70%, then it came down to 50% over a period of time. When we go down, we would see actually it's settling somewhere between 20 to 30%, right? So definitely there is a little bit of fatigue which is coming in because of one is the evolution, the entire business. Second is everyone had a lot of quality time to spend on social media, on the internet, so to say, in the past 2 years, and which has dipped. That is the second bit. And the third thing, if you were to look at, is that there is a slowdown in the global economy. Biden accepted it a month back that we are heading to a global economy, and social media, influencer marketing is no different. Eventually, what happens is when the economy does well, everyone would want to spend and take the market share a little higher. But the point is, when the economy goes down, everyone tries to control the cost because they know the business is not going to be pick up so much. So what they try and do is they justify their spends. While justifying the spends is what they believe, but to most of the people, it's basically cutting down the advertising spends. So that's how I would summarize it. Now, if we were to look at the startups, when they initially not just the startups, if you were to look at the FMCGs, if you were to look at the e-commerce, if you were to look at the startups, if you were to look at people with these smaller business ideas, it was very tough for them to rub shoulders with a Vodafone, with the Pepsis on the prime time, on the front page of Economic Times. So what they did was they tried to figure out certain ways which are not as expensive, and there was a so to say experimentation that they did, and the experimentation went well. It worked for the brands, it worked for the influencers, it worked for the consumer, and that's how there was an early acceptance. But now, if you were to look at, thanks to whatever is happening across the world, earlier with the pandemic and now with the Ukraine Russia bit, it is going to take a little beating all across. And like I said, we are no different. So this would definitely come down. But do we have to say, is it because of what influencers were not able to deliver? I think it would be a little being unfair to them. The entire economy is down. And if you were to look at the way the startups are going, I mean, we knew what happened. We all witnessed what happened with the Paytm. People were hoping that the entire IPO would be oversubscribed by so many times, and that's what they put the entire money in. But what they saw with certain startups as big as a Paytm, the acceptance doesn't come so easily. It's a process. It takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But within that period of 3 years, 4 years, can they sustain their advertising? Can they sustain their advertising? They cannot. So what they do is they go very bullish, because obviously they have to raise funds in the next round or the subsequent rounds. And that's what the mistake that they do is that they go bullish in the first year itself. Somewhere they need to understand that if you were to sustain it, you cannot go so over aggressive. Somewhere you need to justify the spends, not just to a finance guy, but even to your investors also. So I think
Yeah.
one is there's an evolution.
In fact, those
there's
who have
a
also
depth
not
across the
IPO'd,
global
because to be
aspect.
fair, even those who have not IPO'd, because to be fair, the likes of Unacademy that made this winter phrase very popular in this downturn, is talking about cutting down on spends. People will only fly economy. There will be no perks. Cut back on advertising, marketing. Misho is talking about it. Everybody's suddenly talking about it. And like I said, if they're not going to be advertising for the biggest sporting property on this planet, IPL, are they really going to be doing it for influencers? And with that, Neha, I'll come back to you. You were candid enough, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for it, how the number of paid promotions is down daily. But tell me something, the quantum of the paid promotions is down, but the checks that all of you were getting, you're going on YouTube, you're making a name for yourself there, you already have more than 3.5 lakh subscribers. On Instagram, you have more than 1 million. Are you able to command the same price as you were earlier?
Because I can compromise on the number of promotion. I don't want 3 promotions every month, because I was getting that in bull run. I am happy with 1 or 2 promotions, but I want what I deserve. So I'm more into quality rather than quantity. And because you also wanted to know about the price, if they have decreased the price also. Yes, brands are trying to convince us for this same deliverables at 30% or 40% lesser price. Like if I did a reel for 30,000, then they're asking me to do it this year in 20,000 or 25,000. So they are also taking the advantage of bare and chal raha hai and market acha nahi hai and itna hi ho payega. But I know my audience, I know what I'm capable of, so I'm not convinced to do it in lesser price.
Reecha, there's something else that's being talked about, okay? Brands, and I had asked Vikas, I'll ask you this, and tell me what your experience in Moj has been. Also, brands must now be like, are consumers just going to buy a product because, let's say, you endorse it on a certain platform, or your colleagues do, your friends do, whether it is on Moj or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, wherever? Are those days also behind us? And secondly, will brands now not be more apprehensive about collaborating with influencers like you, because there's a new tax that is kicked in? If you keep that product, and the taxman will never know if you return the product or not, they'll probably assume you kept it. There's a tax also that will have to be paid. Is that creating a sentiment damp now?
I have not faced it yet, but I'll tell you one thing. Initially, for example, it's a 100 rupee budget for a product. it used to go to the stars. It never came to us. We were never in the picture, all the influences. Suddenly there's this market came up wherein the 100 rupees got divided into two parts, and the 50% was divided amongst influencers, and suddenly people like us started getting jobs. We were getting paid. Okay, I agree. Initially, we used to get a lot of money. I also used to get much better payouts in last year. This year, it has gone a little bit down. Not only because of the issues you are talking about, but also because there are now many influencers. Most of the people who are working are also influencers, and trying to do this because it's you sitting at home, you have this four wall, and you can create something, reach to the audience, and get paid. So there are many people who are doing this other than me, and so the payouts are going down, yes. But I'm again telling you, we always come up with new ideas, and then suddenly there's a boom. So it's always some creativity, which we are content creators, we get monotonous, we get boring, we ourselves get bored with our own content. So I understand, but yes, but it is happening. It is not affecting that much as of now.
We have to wrap up this conversation. So, Vikas, I'm going to give you the final comment on this one. Has the image of, and I'm not talking about us here, I'm saying the overall panel, overall industry, overall creator economy community, has it had to take a hit also? Because, of late, there's been a fear. Should people be relying on advice of influencers? We saw, for example, with Vault, there were paid promotions, but influencers who the public looks up to, takes very seriously, were recommending Vault's product. It's a crypto exchange which has now had to wind up. People have lost money. Questions are being asked that why are there no guidelines for these influencers? Why are they allowed to say what they want? But each of these influencers did disclose. It was an advertisement. It was written promotion. It was written sponsored.
So, there are two challenges that we are fighting. Like I said, one is there is just a little bit of filtration process in the entire evolution of the influencer marketing and the social media part of it. Second is economy taking a beating. And the third thing, or the biggest challenge to us, is the digital fraud. You know it pretty well. If we were to look at the last year, the global digital fraud spends are close to $81 billion, right? So if you were to look at, India is not much behind. US experienced close to 10% of their total spends. China experienced close to 17%, which is the highest, I believe. India is close to 15%. So definitely there is a little bit of filtration process that would happen because there was ample time with everyone else. People were ready to hear, and everyone got into the bandwagon. But slowly, the serious contenders shall stay back, and definitely they would make it far more effective. But if you were to look at the overall digital bit itself, you have bots close to anywhere someone claims, but whatever on an average, if you were to look at it, it's close to 28 to 29% are basically the bots that contribute to the digital ad fraud. But like I said, there is a need for the influencers to take a little bit of responsibility. Not that the brand ambassadors ever took responsibility. We know brand ambassadors who were basically promoting a Samsung phone, and eventually they were using an iPhone to their regular use. So you can't just tag just the influencer. That's a challenge with the overall brand ambassador. If you were to look at the biggest celebrities across the world, they claim they advertise for a particular car, a particular phone, and they use something else. And that has actually hampered the credibility of the influencers. When I say influencer, it's not about these beautiful women and other people who are making their mark, but it's a challenge with the brand ambassadors. No one actually takes them as seriously. So it would be very unfair to say that it's the influencers only who would get the backlash of it. But the point is, it's a challenge for everyone. So they are no different to it. So definitely influencers.
Let's see if you're all ready for the challenge. And Reecha and Neha have already announced it. Neha said, I'm going beyond Instagram. I'm not going to cut down on my price. I'm going on other platforms as well. I'm going to continue, simplifying finance. You've had Reecha also saying out it's up to us to innovate. So these are two ladies, who are clearly not ready to accept winter just because it's been declared as winter. We've run out of time. So I'd like to thank all three of you. Clearly, this is a space which is going to be challenged. The fight is on for every dollar. The advertisers want to spend less, so it's time for everybody to up their game. Many thanks for joining us today on ET Now.
Thank you, Nayantara. Thank you, Liz. Thank you,
Thank
Liz.
you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.